It's time for the PWHL Puck Drop Podcast.
And end of catchy jingle, hopefully, that we got recorded before we started our first ever puck drop on the PWHL podcast. Welcome on in. I am CB from GameDay Hockey on YouTube, and this is the first ever episode of our podcast specializing and focusing on the Professional Women's Hockey League from a fan's perspective and a longtime hockey player, Canadian hockey fan. You can see behind me, this is a Team Canada jersey signed by the one and only Hayley Wickenheiser from the original 1998 Olympics. Also behind me is an autographed picture from some of the originals. Cassie Campbell, Hayley Wickenheiser again, Vicky Sunahara. Those are some of my most prized possessions, being a longtime women's hockey fan. And I couldn't be more excited to start this with you. I'm hoping we'll have some guests on, but for now it's just me. So send me any questions. That'll really keep the podcast rolling, along with some exchange back and forth on our first reactions to the first games. I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon, and I'm hoping to wrap it up before game number 3 of the season starts, which is, of course, Minnesota versus Boston. Next time you'll see me, instead of the plain gray, I will have my proud purple PWHL hoodie. If you go to the store, as a matter of fact, you can hardly find any of the merch. You can see that as far as league merch, it's almost all sold out. The pucks, the hats, the sweatshirts. This is what I got, the purple signature hoodie. And for individual teams, their pucks are sold out. Yesterday, they weren't all sold out, but it looks like the Minnesota and Boston fans have jumped on board. So all 6 teams sold out. The league puck is sold out. The mug is sold out. You can get a mini stick. So if you didn't get yours yet, just hold tight. I'm sure they'll be restocking, and it's just a really good sign among many that the league has really taken off. Fans are really excited. Game number 1, of course, was held at the Mattamy Center in Toronto. The New York team against the home Toronto team. And you can see some of the firsts. The most important one, everybody's so happy that Ella Shelton of New York scored the first goal in PWHL history. And who assisted on the first goal in PWHL history? None other but U.S. legend Alex Carpenter. Also, we had the first shutout, Corrine Schroeder. First faceoff win, first shot, first save, first penalty, and first team win went to New York. So from a fan's point of view, I'm not going to try to be a cheerleader for the league, even though I'm excited. I'm going to try to give you my initial first impressions. I was pleasantly surprised, and I won't say hugely surprised, but medium surprised at the outstanding reaction. The fans lined up, the autographs, the merch, like I said, Billie Jean King being present, Jana Hefford showing a little bit of emotion at puck drop, all of the players who had previously played in different leagues or maybe never played professionally, they've played college or they've played internationally, came together. It was just something to see. And as a longtime player and fan of women's hockey, I was feeling excited. I mean, the game action was almost secondary, let's face it. You had Cheryl Pounder just beside herself with excitement, which is so cool to see. So those were the firsts in the first game. Unfortunately for the home team, the Toronto team didn't score any goals. That was about the only drawback. But Team New York, boy, oh boy, did they look good. And for me, let's see, the game action started off a little tentative. I mean, the crowd was really ramped up and the players kind of showed a little bit of nervousness. The Team Canada and USA veterans looked more comfortable than the college players or the PHF players even. But things got going, and the first thing that everybody reacted to was the physical play. I've seen a lot of posts online that people were saying, I didn't expect it to be this physical, and I thought there was no body checking in women's hockey. Well, there isn't hitting, but there's checking. There is definitely a lot of physical play along the boards, a lot of shoving, a lot of, holding. You wouldn't call it like contact hitting, but it is close contact play. And it got a little edgy at times. And you could see that the fans were loving it and the fans were there for it for sure. So physical play was probably the first big surprise. The second surprise to me was the goaltending of Corrine Schroeder, who is technically fourth in line for Team Canada, behind Anne-Renee Desbiens, Emmerich Mashmeyer, and Toronto's goalie, Kristen Campbell. Well, Corrine Schroeder just casually showed up and posted a shutout with 29 saves on 29 shots. So 10:43 of the first period, face-off draw won by Alex Carpenter and a goal and a shot from the point. And Ella Shelton, assistant captain of Team New York, had her name in the record books. I'm sure that was exciting for her. So keeping it real, the gameplay looked a little tentative. And to me, there was so much play on the boards. There wasn't a lot of like on ice rushing and playmaking. It looked like players wanted to rim the puck around and play it a little bit safe. But once the first goal was scored, it opened up a little bit, and then New York just took over. Toronto dominated the second period because they really wanted to make a comeback, but there was Schroeder just a backboard. And since that was the first real game for many of these players playing together, you could expect it to be a little rough around the edges. You know, players that haven't played together, Toronto tried to build their team with some built-in familiarity from Team Canada, and that showed, I think, when they started pressing with Sarah Nurse, Blair Turnbull, Renata Fast, and Jocelyn The Rock. They're comfortable playing together, and it showed, but they just couldn't get a goal past Corrine Schroeder. I noticed as the second and third period went on, the players looked more comfortable. So I'm expecting the second game, which will actually be a rematch of those two teams, to be even better, but definitely just more hockey. Like, let's just play hockey. Let's forget about the pomp and circumstance. And hopefully Toronto will score a goal, but that'll be in New York's barn. So there was no home goal. The fans went home a little unhappy with that, but overall, a great, great day. The other big story, of course, is the ticket sales, the fan reaction, the attendance. This game was sold out, but Mattamy Center is a little smaller than the TD Place where Ottawa played the next night, which is larger, as well as the Verdun Arena in Montreal, where they're going to play. That's a little larger, and that's also sold out. I think all of the 6 home openers are sellouts. As I mentioned in my opening introduction video on my channel, which I'll try to link here, Toronto has sold out their season ticket packages and even their half season ticket packages. So good news there, but it's going to be tough to get in there to see a game. That rink is a little smaller. I think it holds 3,000. The other thing that came out on the first couple of days was the official rule book, and people had noticed a couple of things already in the first games. One of the exciting rules is that if you draw a penalty and score a shorthanded goal, your player gets sprung from the box and the penalty is over. So that's going to create a little bit of a special incentive for the penalty killers and maybe players who don't normally kill penalties but play more offensive will be out there killing penalties. We saw Marie-Philippe Poulin in the second game on a shorthanded breakaway, and she drew a penalty shot for that. I'm pretty sure even the penalty shot would have counted and released the player from the box. That's a pretty interesting rule and should make for a little more active penalty killing. And I don't know if it'll be more conservative on the power play, but it's just going to make the stakes a little higher when they draw penalties. Speaking of which, like we said with the physical play, there just weren't a lot of penalties called for anything physical. We had slashing, hooking, interference, hooking. So there were no penalties for hitting, boarding, hitting to the head. Interference, I suppose, is a body play, but that's just been, I guess I'm repeating myself, but that's just been really, really something to enjoy and appreciate, that these women can play physically. Now, keeping it real, I watch a lot of NHL. I watch the World Juniors. You know, I'm just a huge hockey fan, and I played university hockey. I will admit that women are smaller. The game is going to look different. It's a more strategic game. It probably compares a little bit less than men's juniors. Women are just smaller. Haley herself went over to Finland and played in the 3rd division in a Finnish league and did well there. And that's about as high as she could get. Just keeping it real. But if you've played women's hockey, this is super, super high caliber. it's interesting to see the national players playing with different, not as all-star players, let's put it that way. They really stood out to me, especially Poulin in the second game. So let's take a look at the second game while we're talking about that. And it really seems like there's this cooperative community feeling in the way the team's been put together and the way the community has taken them in. The atmosphere was just fantastic. We had the first overtime game. We had the first penalty shot. We had the first goal review and disallowed goal. Let's see. First home team to score is PWHL Ottawa. The first penalty shot, Marie-Philippe Poulin. Who else? First goal review on that disallowed goal by Michaela Grant-Mentis. It looked like she had put it under the pad of Anne-Renee Desbiens. She pulled it to the outside, but as it turns out, Desbiens' skate had pushed the post just a little bit off, and the puck went under that area of the post. I don't think it would have gone in had the net stayed on. So it wasn't like the worst call, and they were able to just shake that off. And then Haley Skimura scored the first power play goal. We had the first overtime goal by Anne-Sophie Bataille, and you could just see the Ottawa team with its multicultural, diverse excitement. We had Akane Shiga, the first Japanese player to play professional hockey. There were a lot of great storylines, and the game had some twists and turns. Again, it started off a little cautious. I thought, at first Montreal looked maybe more nervous, and I don't know if that's just because they have like the best player and the best goaltender, and then everyone else kind of maybe trying to figure out where they fit in, but they definitely got their game together and pushed in the third to tie it up. Laura Stacey had the tying goal, and she looked great. Erin Ambrose as well, and Desbiens is just going to be a great backstop for them. So let's see. We had Ottawa with the edge in shots in the first two periods, and then Montreal outshooting them 10-6 in the third, and in overtime 1-0. Claire Dalton's second period goal was the first time a player making their professional debut scored. Again, that record-breaking sold-out crowd of 8,318 fans. So we had a different set of broadcasters, and there was a comment on my YouTube channel that maybe the broadcasters and analysts are being a little bit too cheerleady right now. That might be true. You can just tell that everybody is overwhelmed at the moment and just so glad this is happening. I didn't think it was too bad. They analyzed the game, they described the action, and they couldn't help but say just how awesome it was to hear the fans cheering. They booed Poulin when she had the penalty shot. I mean, it's starting to take on a personality of its own. Just looking here at the PWHL Ottawa page, and it looks like they're strongly using Instagram and Facebook. So you want to check that out for highlights, videos. I haven't seen as much on YouTube, so that's why I'm trying to, give you some good coverage here. I'm happy to do that. And please let me know what else you might be looking for as the season goes on. I need to get to watch that third game. That's going to be super exciting. Post any comments here, any feedback, any suggestions for future podcasts and what you'd like to see. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. I really appreciate the support so far, and we'll see you in the next one.
PWHL Puck Drop Podcast.